Welcome, family, to the Struggle to Success Season 2. And it's back by popular demand. Last year's season, we had a lot of feedback, how it's impacted people's lives. They were inspired, they were educated, they got a lot of support, extra support because of the programs, people's testimonials and their stories. So we decided this year we're going to run it back again. So we've decided to run 6 sessions, of which today is the first session. And today's topic, we're going to talk about struggling to success when it comes to relationships. Myself, my name is Marlo Morris. I'm one of the co-hosts. Alongside me will be Basil Links, entrepreneur. He will share a bit about himself a bit later. Scotty, is a therapist, and he will share what he does a little bit about himself later. And Jules, and he will share a bit about himself later. My other co-hosts on the screen, I'm not sure if they're going to pop up, will be Naomi Donald, Kim Thompson, and Deborah Robinson. And we have a specialist who's written a book, an author, and she will be introduced a bit later by my co-host, Naomi Donald. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Naomi. Good evening, Naomi. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Marlo. Thank you. What a lovely introduction. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on the show. So this evening's show, Struggle to Success, we're going to be discussing healthy relationships. And we're going to be looking at 2 key themes in terms of narcissism within relationships from both men and women, and young people accessing porn and how that might impact relationships. What role does that play? So before I continue, I'm just going to ask my co-host to introduce themselves. So Kim, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Kim Thompson. I'm the proud founder of United We Rise UK. We unite establishments with our Black-owned educational establishments, institutions, entrepreneurs. I'm an advocate of, getting families back together with their children, parenting, that kind of thing. We have mentors that help with trauma. But my main thing is to get kids back on track. As Naomi said, we're today speaking about relationships, healthy relationships. On the male side and the female side, we're discussing narcissism and porn and the effects it has on our children interaction with relationships. So that's what I'm about today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Kim. Deborah, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Robinson. I am a teacher. I teach English. I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm also an assistant head teacher and soon to be moving into education at on a wider level from September in terms of engaging parents and ensuring that head teachers engage parents. I have worked in education within schools and within communities in terms of delivering workshops, parent forums, presenting to governors and so forth. I am about empowering parents, empowering young people to have a voice within the education system, and to ensure that both young people and parents, and especially those without voices, are equipped with the right tools in order to access these various institutions that they may feel shut out. And today, my part in this conversation will be most definitely to discuss the impact that accessing a lot of indecent images and videos on social media, just talking about the impact that has on a young person and how they form unhealthy perceptions of themselves and also relationships through their early access of lots of pornography, and how it also unfortunately finds itself into schools, and how schools have unfortunately had to deal with a lot of the fallout from the access of pornography. So that's my contribution and a little bit about myself today.
Thank you, Deborah. And I'll just go ahead and give a quick introduction about myself. So my name's Naomi Donald. I'm founder of PODS, which stands for Protect Our Daughters and Sons. And my organisation is really about educating young people about healthy relationships and ensuring that all children and young people are protected from all forms of abuse, exploitation and criminality, as we often find that the three work in silos within inner city communities and certain marginalised communities. We also do a few other things such as public speaking. I'm authentic voice coordinator at a domestic abuse charity. And I also do another podcast called Hidden in Plain Sight, where we discuss the topics that are happening within our communities and societies that we don't like to discuss, like the topics that we're discussing today, actually, because I think that porn and the effects that it has on not only children and young people, but on adults as well in relationships is very, very rarely discussed. Narcissism, on the other hand, is a hot topic. It's been word for the last couple of years, and I'd like to know, Kim, if you'd like to give us a more in-depth description of what narcissism is.
Well, narcissism, you have at least 10 different definitions of narcissism. Okay, the main one is it's like a pursuit of gratification. They tend to want people to admire them. Sometimes they pertain themselves as being shy, and it's more they want the attention on them, on them alone. If they tend to find strong women, or I say strong men, because it works both ways. It's not just a woman thing. It goes with males as well, and they tend to be sensitive to criticism. They're passive aggressive, self-criticism, shyness, live in a fantasy kind of world. But they have other mental health issues. It's actually mental health disorder, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The attributes to that are they expect special favors and questioning. They take advantage of others when they want to. They're very manipulative. They expect to be recognized as the superior one. They will tend to gradually make you move away from your family and your friends, and tend to make out that you're the mad one, the one that's going through certain things. In fact, it's them that's manipulating you and controlling you. You'll find a lot of people will, they'll control their money, they'll control the way they dress, they make them change their habits, that kind of thing. You understand what I'm saying? And it goes, you've got some major levels and you've got the minor levels. And you can never, fix a narcissist. They have to fix themselves. And a lot of people, unfortunately, go through I'd say it is traumatic, but they go through life trying to help, trying to fix, trying to do things to please that particular kind of person. Again, it's not just a female thing. It's not, it works both ways.
Works both ways.
Unfortunately, I say the young ones sometimes don't realize they're actually dating a narcissistic person. Okay.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. And we're going to explore that topic obviously further as the conversation continues. Deborah, would you like to expand a little bit more on how porn affects our young people and relationships?
Okay, so I was reading a report by Relate, and obviously they are the relationship organisation, and they deal with relationships that vary, all types of relationships. And what we do understand is that there is a rising concern about the sexual activities of young people. Teenagers, as we know, are the most technically savvy group of people within the UK, and much of their social interaction is actually conducted online. So that in itself is, I suppose, one of the real issues here. Whereas we in our older years, our 40-something years, or some of us 30-something. Anyway, whereas we were used to face-to-face interaction and socially, our engagement was face-to-face, playing out, and actually talking to our peers. This dynamic has changed. What we've got now are young people interacting, and all that kind of social activity is online, and has been more so online given the climate in which we're living in at the moment with regards to COVID. So young people, unfortunately, online are seeing that as a tool to reveal a lot more information about themselves. And I mean, I'll come in with a little bit more, but just a couple of statistics from this report, based on a lot of young people's voices. 8 out of 10 say that it's too easy for young people to accidentally see porn online. And if they are accidentally seeing porn online, then the ability for them to then access it deliberately, that is in itself alarming. And then 7 out of 10 say it's easy to access porn, and this is seen as typical behavior. A lot of young people in this report talked about accessing porn between the ages of 13 and 15. And on that note, I'll come back to a few more statistics later, and some of the impacts that it's actually having in terms of how young people are forming perceptions of themselves, how they are then defining what is sex and what is love, and essentially how it feeds into their self-esteem, which then moves into how they see themselves within a relationship, because ultimately it's a distorted view that young people are getting. And if we're talking about young people accessing porn from as early as 13 years old, then we're talking about the sexualization of young people from much earlier. So I'll come back to discuss a little bit more of that later on.
Thank you, Deborah, and I'm glad you brought in those statistics there, because it is something that is rising regularly, and I think the ages that young people are accessing porn is getting younger and younger. And recently we've had the Everyone's Invited campaign that has been catapulted into the press in terms of the amount of sexual violence and rapes that actually happen within school. And again, that is another topic that is under discussed, but it's definitely something that we can go on to further. So I just want to hand over to the studio, Marlo and the rest of the men in the studio. Would you like to add to the discussion?
Yeah, thank you. What I'll do is I'll give everybody opportunity kind of to introduce themselves and why they agreed to be on the show, starting with Jules.
Hello, people know me as Jules. That is a nickname that I adopted when I was very young. I agreed to be on the show because Marlo got me in a headlock. No, I agreed. I agreed to be on the show because I've worked with Marlo for many, many years. He's an uncle to me. I think in the space of the last 5 years, I think Marlo got more introduced to my business side of my life, the business side of my life, because we had a history in the music industry. So Marlon was a manager, and business-wise, he was kind of like shocked that I could deliver on certain services. And then I was a part of a shift in part one of your businesses last year in developing this website. And in developing this website, I learned a lot more about what he was doing. And I followed the journey. And he said, listen, we're launching up again. I'd like you to be a guest. So I said, I'll come along. So that's how I came. That's how I found myself in this seat today. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I must say, Ruben, I've known Ruben and your family from, you've been probably about 4 or 5 years old, and watched you grow as a young man, very multifaceted, very artistic, and you've gone from strength to strength. And as a businessman now, even though you refer to me as uncle, I very much look up to you in terms of the way you conduct yourself, the way you do business, the professionalism, and the impact of your service to the stuff that we do with Legacy. So thank you. You were responsible with your company for creating our Legacy website. And we've now had a lot of support from people who have partnered, donated, people who have organizations like the Lottery Fund that have sponsored us. They're actually responsible for this show, sponsoring this show, making this happen. So thanks to you and your service, that has added to what we do. So
teamwork makes the dream work.
I appreciate you and I celebrate you for what you do. Scotty, who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Good evening, peeps. My name's Anthony Scott, but throughout my service, so I've worked with young people now in the helping capacity for about 20 odd years. And currently I work in 2 different services. So I work in a service in one of the London boroughs, and that's working in schools, supporting young people from 5 up to 18, 25 with learning disability, and that is around emotional support. And then my other job, which I do 1 day a week, I was in that organization for 3 years. I used to manage a team of youth workers in one of the major trauma centres in London. So there's 4 major trauma centres in London. And the service was predominantly working with young people at risk of serious youth violence. So I'd manage a team, and I was based in the ER department. And I saw quite a lot of horrific injuries. And I saw quite a lot of young people, male and female, at risk of exploitation, county lines. And in that work, working with parents, getting a kind of holistic view of what some of the challenges were. So what the panel was talking around sexualized behavior, that is something that I'm getting a lot of referrals for at the moment. So even younger than 13, I'm getting referrals from primary school children that's accessing pornography, whether it be by accident or via links. And what came to mind when Deborah was talking is around the availability of porn and how easy it is for young people to be influenced, which then shapes their views around relationships, around what is sex, what is a healthy relationship. So the organization that is doing some work, I believe it's in Birmingham, that's doing work around relationships, is well needed. So if I was to sum up myself, I'm a therapist. I've been working with young people for a number of years. Prior to working with young people, I did the road thing. Yeah, that's a different story. So yeah, you got a man with a lot of experience and a lot of therapeutic knowledge that's able to relate it to our communities. So I think the thing with therapy is that people think it's some kind of mystical kind of space. My capacity is to break down therapy so that actually we can all do with some therapeutic support, some therapeutic help to help us think more clearly, to help us understand ourselves, our pattern of relationships. How do we relate? How do our previous experiences shape how we relate in our present experience? Making those connections. So yeah, so and I came here today because I've known Milo for a long time.
Yeah, long time.
We used to rave on the circuit. We still go out on the circuit and thing. And
I've retired though.
you've retired. You can't retire. You can't retire. So Milo, I think it was last week we was in a conversation, and he said, "I'm doing this thing, Scotty." And because I got mad love for you, and because we got that history, I said, "Come on, bruv, you know it's a simple thing." Yeah. So Milo phoned me, and I said, "All right, give me the time." Today was a bit of a struggle because it was a bit of a bop from where I was coming from, but we got love for our people, and we got to share our knowledge and our experience. I think everyone that's here has got something really valuable to give.
And nothing but love for you, Scotty. I know you don't know this, but the lockdown last year, we started to cook. We started to cook online. I was teaching my nephews to cook. You was doing a lot of cooking online. And a lot of guys were calling me up saying, "Boy, you know what? I have to go and buy my dutchie pot because, you know what I mean? They've been taking some of my recipes." And when you started to put your your talks on your cooking, I started to say, you know what? I think I need to go and get counseling now. Yeah, because you made counseling seem valuable. It seemed like I could benefit from counseling. So I fast forward, I'm in counseling now myself. I get counseling every Wednesday. It's somewhere for me to put the stuff that's in my spirit, in my mind, that I don't trust to put anywhere else. I can put it with somebody that's trained, somebody that's understands, that will listen, and actually values and respects what I've got to say. And that's been helping me, and that's because of what you represent. And in a raving social setting, you don't really see people's skills and resources. And I thank God for that's one of the good things that's come out of lockdown. I was able to see people that I've known for a long time in a different way and draw from what they do and get inspired and use that inspiration as an action to benefit myself. So I thank you for being on the show. Basil, my mentor, the guru, the entrepreneur, the man himself.
Thank you so much. I'm finding the whole conversation really interesting because it sounds like you've had an amazing journey. I mean, I'm a businessman and entrepreneur, and I've built my whole career just on working and developing businesses. But having said that, part of that is relationships. So I'm a firm believer in strong relationships because really business is all about relationships. We do business with people. And if you don't get on with the person, or you don't respect the person, or they don't respect you, and it's not a win-win, then I always believe it's unsustainable. So anything, you might get the upper hand at some point, but if you don't redress that and balance it out and make everyone a winner, at some point, someone's going to walk away from the table. So I'm looking forward to the rest of this evening because obviously I'm going to probably learn something, but at the same time, my strength, I think, is and a key element of my success has been focusing on relationships. And I'm the sort of person that believes that a genuine relationship is worth more than any amount of actual money, because that's from that relationship, lots and lots of things can flow. Other relationships, more business, more success. So I'm very keen on establishing relationships and maintaining long-standing relationships as well.
Yeah, thanks, Basil. That's powerful. And for last but not least, a lot of people may know or don't know. My name is Marlon Morris. I am founder and director of the Legacy Gala Limited and Legacy Foundation. The journey didn't start there, and it's not going to end there. I was also a young person that made a lot of choices that had adverse effects on my destination. I was also, I believe, looking back, had narcissistic traits. So I can, looking back, relate to this topic today. And I'm all like Basil. My dad always says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I'm in a place where I'm willing to learn and listen to other people's experiences so I can help other people, you know what I'm saying? As well as helping myself. Self-care, healthcare, and wealth care is what we're about with Legacy. And these whole 6 sessions is about helping ourselves and others navigate through the path of success and protect their mental health. It's very important that we look at our mental health, because that's the playground for our thoughts and how we shape our thoughts, and our thoughts will shape our actions, and our actions will ultimately decide where we end up. Yeah, so I'm very interested in this topic. I see it's going to be very inspirational, very informative, and very educational. From a narcissist, there's a couple of guys that came to my mind when we talked about this show. It was a guy called Kevin Samuels and a guy called Derek Jackson that had a lot of views on relationships. So I wanted to speak to you, Ruben, about your take on your understanding of Derek Jackson, and if you think he's a narcissist, and what you think his view is on in terms of relationships.
Derek Jackson, I never really followed him. It's
not Derek Jackson, Kevin Samuels.
Okay, so Kevin Samuels. They're 2 different characteristics when you look at what their message is and what they stand for. One man says, because both of their audiences is predominantly for women, even though I've become a fan of one.
Which one?
Kevin Samuels.
You're not a fan of Derek Jackson?
Not necessarily, because I find that when people get to the space of a platform, you can say what people want you to hear or what they want to hear, or you can say what they need to hear. They're 2 different pitches, and they're not going to the same destination. Right. So I find that the Derek Jackson platform says a lot about what a lot of women want to hear. That's why he can sell books on the back end of his narrative. I find that Kevin Samuels says a lot of things that I understand the space he's speaking from. I'm not going to say I am one of his high. I am a high value man. That's how I classify myself. But in regards to his pitch, it's not always cute or packaged in a way that the receivers are ready for. So a lot of the time he'll say stuff that you have to do your research into, but it makes sense and it can hurt. The truth, I usually say the truth don't hurt, it sets you free, as long as you accept it.
Who is Kevin Samuels, and what? Give us an example of the stuff that...
I'm not here to be a Kevin Samuels.
No, the reason why, because I'm looking at a lot of women have said he's a bully, he's self-centered, he's arrogant, he's all the traits that a narcissist has. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of men can relate to that. Now, is that something that's...
It's on public platforms, I don't want to say too much, but I would say...
It's a school of thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say that my understanding of who he is a man who's not afraid of speaking his truth. He can't speak for all men, but he speaks for a type of men in a type of position, and he speaks freely without fear of the prosecution, and that you can only commend in this day and age of cancel culture and saying the wrong thing will get you shut down. He says it with background, evidence, stats, statistics, and information. So who is he? He's an intelligent man sharing his truth. That's what I would say. But I would say the same thing to any man speaking their truth. I'm a Christian. It doesn't mean my Muslim brethren who studied the Quran can't speak truth to me. Do you see what I'm saying? So anyone speaking their truth, I can only respect it. And like I said, there are things in what he says that I say, I hear what you're saying, brother. And whether you like it or not, I hear what you're saying. So,
can you give us an example? Because I'm not familiar with him.
So Kevin Samuels speaks to. I'll give you a little history lesson into him.
How did he become viral?
All right, we're not going to go there. Let's start with just a little. He comes from a marketing background, crossed over into image consultancy. In his image consultancy, he's quite a well-groomed up man. In his image consultancy, he was coming across a lot of women who were looking for high-value men, dressed a certain way, earned a certain amount of income, established men, black men predominantly. And he spanned that round to say, do you think the man you're looking for or the men you're looking for are looking for you? And these are the things, these are the traits you need to have to fit the criteria of what that man who's gone through his life independently and made it to the top of his world. Because we live in a generation now where a lot of women are saying, my man needs to be earning 6 figures and all of these brackets. He says, okay, if that's what you're looking for, let me explain to you what it looks like up there and what they're looking for. So that's what he speaks to. And an example of what he will say is the high value man who's established, he's got his own home, he's got his own business. In and around his circles of high value men, he is respected as such, is not looking at how much you get paid. He's not looking at how we're going to build a house together. He's not in that position. He has his house. He's looking at not just aesthetically, but there are other elements he's looking at a woman for. And that's what he speaks to. Generally, that's what I could say.
I see.
Scotty, what's your take on narcissism, man? And have you ever been a narcissist? Do you know?
I think everyone's got narcissistic traits because everyone's got a feeling of self-ego, self-gratification, where they want to be seen and to be valued. So everyone's got narcissistic traits. It's about, do you understand them? And do you understand how they impact how you relate to other people? So we've all got a bit of narcissism in us. Who doesn't like? Why do we use social media? Why do we post pictures when we're on holiday? Why do we take selfies when we're going out raving? It's a form of narcissism, self-gratitude, isn't it? Why do people buy these big cars? Narcissists. It makes me feel good. Driving down the road, I got a Bentley.
I just bought a big car. I bought a big car because I need a big car. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, but there's that whole saying about my masculinity and extension.
You bought a brand new BMW with the you talk to it and everything.
Yeah, but it's still a functional vehicle in my business. I carry goods, and I bought a big car because I carry a lot of goods.
What about the Ferrari you said you was gonna get?
That's another story.
That's what I'm saying. So we've all, I think, when we think about narcissism, we've all got traits around it. It's about understanding, and it's about. You spoke earlier on around your own journey and around reflection and around having that safe space to understand yourself a bit more. And I think if people understand themselves a bit more, that reflective space, that time alone, it makes you understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and then it makes you understand what you were saying about this gentleman. What do I actually bring to the table? So here I am, a successful man. I've reached the pinnacle of my career. I've got what I need. What is it that I'm looking for in a partner? Here I am, a successful woman, highly educated, earning whatever figures, got this perception of myself, and I want this high value. Well, apart from those things, what are you bringing to the table? Why are you bringing humanity? Are you bringing humility? Are you bringing softness? Or have we just become so damaged from past relationships that when we encounter new relationships, we're carrying that suitcase of pain and hurt? So when we do meet someone, are we coming from a genuine place? Are we coming from a place where we want to grow in this relationship, where we want to nurture it? Or is that past traumatic experience always niggling in the back of the head?
That's where therapy comes in with regards to experiences and offloading. I feel like everybody, you cannot get to your final destination with all of those traits still, like the pain and the suffering, and because you could do something, you could be in a relationship tomorrow with the most beautiful woman, career driven, what you're looking for, like what your package is. And she has an experience from her ex getting texts in the middle of the night from a female he was seeing. Now you're getting texts about business. You don't want to look over and your girl's waking up shaking, looking at your phone because your phone's going off. She now has to let go of, or whoever's in that situation has to find a way to let go of all the past experiences in order to enjoy the current space.
That kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, yeah, a relationship, when you break down the word relationship, a ship is a vessel that brings you from one destination to the other. Yeah. If you're in a ship with somebody that you get on with, that you compliment, that you're going in the same direction with, then it's an enjoyable ship. But if you're in that same vessel that with somebody that you don't get on with, you don't see eye to eye with, or don't have the same values, beliefs, then it can be a sinking ship. Yeah. So when we look at a relationship, today we're talking about relationship. We're talking about young people accessing porn. Why are young people more likely to go towards a sexual relationship as opposed to maybe a relationship where it's a marriage or engagement?
Is it
or
only
long-term
is it only young people? Because I think that the nature of relationships
But it starts there.
has changed. Like over the last, 20, 30 years, we're in an instant age. And I think everyone nowadays, they want success. They want
The microwave.
everything instantly.
They're narcissists.
Well, does that mean
No,
that?
no. What it is, it's conditioning, isn't it?
It's the microwave generation.
We are conditioned now for instant gratification. So we see something, we want it. So, for example, you will see successful people and they might have on, a watch, for example, a Rolex. We don't know how long that person's been working to buy that Rolex. But because of instant gratification, I want to rob you for your Rolex instead of thinking, actually, Milo did a lot of work setting up this organization and so forth to build this. So people want instant gratification. And when you're hurt, when we're talking about sexualized behavior, it's almost like drugs. It's instant gratification. So if I smoke cannabis or I take crack or I take heroin, I get a buzz. Sexual gratification does that. If I engage in a sexual activity with a female and I get that endorphins and I feel good for that minute, it's like a drug.
So you're saying that young people, because they want that instant gratification, they're more likely to go towards porn.
Exactly, because it highlights the same parts of the brain. Like when you look at the brain and how drugs impact the brain and how it lights up areas of the brain, that's what pornography does. And let's not get it twisted about just young people. Because if we think about the last year, we've been in lockdown. You know how much people watching porn?
Yeah, that's a struggle.
People in their house, women in their house, it's affecting relationships. So here I am, a man, I'm locked down and I'm watching porn. Now this porn is showing me that beauty, and it's not even just porn. Instagram, I go on my Instagram account, I like food. So just off the record, guys, boom, bam is my motto for turning my hand because I like food. Now sometimes I go on food channels. Then I see videos of women in bikini, twerking, doing all of it. Then I see, so we're bombarded with sexualized imagery about what a woman should look like, how a man should be. So that twists us. So we have a false perception of what sex is and what relationships is. Instant gratification. My girl look like Beyonce. I don't care if she's got a brain or not, I'm moving to that because I get gratification. What does she get? The attention. Is that a form of narcissism? So here I am, Beyonce look-alike, so forth, here. Something amazed me a couple of weeks ago. I think I was looking for some pans to do some baking in. And I saw some breasts and bottom on Amazon where they can buy knickers with padding in it to make the bottom look big. I'm thinking, I'm just looking for things to bake cake. And these things is coming up. And I'm an adult. So imagine a child. And I always, this is something I say to parents, and I'm not going off piece there, right? When I used to try and explain to parents phones, tablets, internet, I used to break it down to them, and I used to say to them, would you leave your house to go to work at 10 o'clock in the morning and go through your front door and you got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old in the house? Would you then say to them, here, what? I'm going to leave the front door open for the next 10 hours while I go to work. Anyone that's walking past the house, you can invite them in. Anybody. When you leave someone with a mobile phone at that age, what you're literally saying is for the next 10 hours, you can invite anybody into the home, whether that's a sexual predator, whether that's pornography, whether that's exposure to county lines. There's so much things that can be influenced by a young person. So relationships, I think now, not just young people, but adults, we have a skewed view of relationships because that instant gratification is almost immediate. If I'm, you know, I've spoken to a lot of my wife's friends and other women, and we've lost the art of dating now, man. They don't even have conversations, they WhatsApp. And if you don't respond within 3 days, boom, WhatsApp gone, next person.
Let me ask you a question.
3 days.
3 days?
3 hours.
3 hours, mate. 3 hours.
Before I pass it back over to the ladies, I just want to maybe say then, would it be an idea for us to re-establish, reset what a relationship, a healthy relationship looks like then? Because maybe we've lost sight of that.
The lady, I think, is Natalie. Is it Natalie? Up in Pod? Parents.
Naomi.
Naomi.
Yeah.
I think it's Naomi.
I was looking for Natalie.
She's running that group. I've never heard of it, but what you say is, it's around readdressing young people and adults. What is relationships? Relationships are not smooth. You have ups and downs. So in business, you have disagreements. You might lose funding. If we have a bad relationship where I don't trust you, I'm going to think you're genuinely in business.
Hold on. Stick up.
Yeah.
Before I pass over to you, Naomi, I'm just going to get a definition from the men about what they think a good relationship looks like to them. Starting with you, Basil.
I'd say a good relationship is one where you can be yourself, where you don't have to pretend. Yeah. So I have a persona to the public. The persona that I have within my relationship will be different. And I think that it's about accepting someone for who they are. So, I mean, I'm no longer married, but I got married when I was 21. And
so early?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that I wanted to I was in love, yeah.
So early?
Definitely.
How did you know you was in love?
My love.
Marlon, you need to ask him if he's in love, yeah?
Stick it from me. So
I'm not good at all of this hosting.
Okay, but I was married for 22 years. Yeah. Now, what was beautiful about that relationship was that we were totally different. And I was doing business from a very young age. By the time I was 21, I was already on my third property. Yeah. I buying property, trading, buying and selling cars, what have you. Yeah. But really, we accepted each other. We both had our own strengths, and we were just like complementing each other. So it's interesting that in that relationship, I didn't buy my own clothes. I didn't go shopping. There were so many things I didn't have to even worry about. I was able to excel in what I was doing. And eventually, by the time we got into our late 30s, 40s, we split up. But still remained friends, yeah? But I actually felt that having sort of the whole dating thing after that, yeah, it's so totally different to what it was. Like the expectations, the whole interaction between men and women, yeah, it's totally changed. And I don't know, I think it's changed for the worse. So from my perspective, a relationship, to be honest, you should be able to be yourself.
100%.
Yeah. And you may not be everybody's cup of tea. So rather than trying to change someone into who you want them to be, right? Because I do believe, if this word narcissism is real, because it sounds like all things for all circumstances, but it can be both sides of the fence. So I'm a businessman, I make no apology, but yet I'll meet someone that knows me as a businessman, you know, running an organization. I've got more than 150 staff across the piece, yeah. But yet within a few minutes or a few months, it's like, all you do is business. You haven't got no time. You haven't got this. Well, that's what, you know, you met me as a lion. Now you want me to turn into a pussycat, or you want me to change from what I do. And I just think if you can accept the person, they can accept you. That's what a relationship should be about.
Thank you, Basil. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Scotty,
for me, I'll just keep it short,
What's a
sharp,
good
and sweet.
relationship?
A relationship is about trust and
to
respect.
you.
A relationship for me is about trust and respect. And I think that when you enter a relationship, you come as a whole person. And the person that you're entering a relationship should be coming as a whole person. And when you spend time together, it's about those two whole people coming together to experience different things. And when I want to go back to being my whole person, the things I enjoy, my training, my riding my motorbike, my cooking, when you want to go back to your dancing, your reading, whatever, I don't feel, because I have trust and respect for you as a person, because I've accepted you for you, and you've accepted me for me. And what you said is about being congruent and being authentic.
Yeah.
This is who I, Anthony Scott, is.
Beautiful. Ruben, as a young man.
These men have way more experience than me.
No, but what I'm saying, with the little experience that you
his
have.
relationship is as long as my age.
No, but hold on. But what I'm saying, you got a modelling agency, right?
Okay, wait. Let's before we go, because you can start bringing up other highlights in the real. But I'll just say, from my experience, short experience, I'll piggyback off the back of what you were saying about whole people. I think what makes a good relationship is identifying that you're responsible for your own happiness, because we all have choices. Don't come to me to make you happy. I think you should be happy. I should be happy. And that together, because then I become responsible for your good days and your bad days. And I don't think that pressure should be put on someone else to make me happy or make me feel special. I think I should feel special for myself. I think you should feel, and that coming together creates something extremely awesome. I also think communication is key for a good relationship. If I can't talk to you and I'm just talking to the man there about problems with you, then we're not really going nowhere. We're just hiding the problems, and I'm just going to express it in other places. And that's where you find men cheat, or whatever they want to call it. I'm saying men, you might find another safe place to communicate your issues, and you might start falling into that. But so if you have a great relationship, you can communicate, listen, I don't really feel that. And vice versa. Do you see what I'm saying? If my missus can't say to me, yo, Jules, I weren't happy about that, and she's got a pillow talk with her girls, she's going to be upset in this space, in this relationship, on this ship to this journey, wherever we're headed. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to pass over to the ladies. That's great. Very interesting. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Marlo, and thank you, Basil, Scotty, and Jules. Some really good comments made there. Just wanted to return to what Scotty was saying around pods, and the reason why I set up the organisation is because for me, I went through an abusive relationship from the age of 13 to 23. My partner was also very, very narcissistic. He was also leader of one of the biggest gangs in Birmingham at that time. And I went through the physical violence, the sexual violence, the financial abuse, like all forms of abuse were within those 10 years. So that then really led me on a journey to then, first of all, heal myself. And I believe that healing and therapy is a lifelong journey. I don't believe that you just attend counselling and then all of a sudden everything's solved and everything's fixed for you. It's a continuation. And so bringing onto the topic of then being in a healthy relationship now, after going through so much trauma and experiencing, what it feels like to be the victim of a narcissist and an abuser. It's hard work. It's hard work, and as a female, sometimes men can quite often, and I don't want to categorize and say all men because I know a lot of amazing men, but sometimes men can put us into boxes as broken women. This time, they haven't done no therapeutic work for all of their traumas, but we're over here, doing the therapy, trying to get ourselves healed and trying to put ourselves in a position to be ready to really receive a man and receive a relationship. And I think just on the back of what Jules said about happiness, I absolutely agree that happiness, you need to have your own happiness first. You have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. However, I would also argue that it is your partner's duty as well to keep you happy. So if I'm having a bad day and I'm in a relationship, then my partner should be able to, do something nice for me that might cheer me up and make me happy. But it shouldn't be his responsibility to make sure that I'm happy every day, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just wanted to add on that part. And I want to come over to Deborah, for you, what is a healthy relationship, or what are some examples of healthy relationships?
I think having a healthy relationship, I'd endorse a lot of what's been said on the panel tonight. But I think having a healthy relationship also means being uncomfortable in your comfortable position, having uncomfortable conversations, and knowing that because there is some form of communication, through communication, you can navigate that discomfort that that two people might feel. Because what I think we need to be clear on is that a healthy relationship isn't, singing and dancing and roses. And I think we need to accept each other's flaws and work with the flaws that each other has. I suppose from my own perspective, I entered a relationship when I was really, really, really young. Not that young, but really young, and came out the other side in my late 40s. And it was a school, it was a teaching ground for me becoming the person I am today, because I grew to learn to listen. You might not agree, but I think I grew in terms of listening, in terms of communicating, in terms of knowing how to say sorry, knowing when to say sorry, and even knowing when to just stop talking. So it is, a healthy relationship is about growing together. Scotty is laughing. A healthy relationship is about growing together and growing through the discomfort and being able to have uncomfortable conversations. And I think, I personally will not replicate the mistakes that I made prior, going into my next relationship. I know I won't do that, because I know I don't want the, for want of a better word, I don't want the hassle and I don't want the drama it brings. But what I do know going forward is I've taken lessons from the long-term relationship that I once had. And so, again, we're still growing, and I'm not averse to learning, and I'm always up for listening. And I want to be able to continue having uncomfortable conversations, because I know myself and my partner can navigate those choppy waters, which we will have to do eventually.
Perfectly said, Deborah, and I love what you said there about having those uncomfortable conversations, and a healthy relationship isn't always just about it's all roses and happy and nice. It's going to be hard, and I think we said the other day, didn't we, that relationships are hard work, like they're not easy. So Kim, would you like to share your thoughts on healthy relationships?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't remember who said, basically, as far as I'm concerned, relationship-wise, you need to keep it real. Don't pretend. Keep it real with each other. Yeah. Someone touched on the fact that but I won't go on with that. People like to pretend a lot, and as far as I'm concerned, you don't know a person until you live with them. Yes, because that's when you get to know their little, leaving the toilet seat up and all them kind of. I'm talking about the emotional side of things. You get to see the emotion that person carries and how they deal with that kind of emotion. Narcissism is kind of different because they don't show no empathy. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're human beings. Our hearts are not made of stone. We feel. And I'm talking about male and female. Yeah? When you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't intentionally go out to hurt that person. You understand? On a narcissistic side, they're not worried about what you're feeling, what you're thinking. It's about controlling your body, mind, and soul. You understand what I'm saying? In a healthy relationship, you tend to, put yourself in the other person's shoes. How would that person feel if you done certain things and that person doesn't like something that you're doing or saying? You don't do it. You compromise. You understand what I'm saying? Unhealthy relationships are soul destroying. I was in a relationship, youngish, but at the time, what I'm trying to say, you don't just have relationships where it's got narcissism in. You have parents that are have narcissistic tendencies that it unfolds in the children as well. And if you're not getting the help, big men don't cry. You understand what I'm saying? Or you're seen as being weak when you look for help, counseling, that kind of thing. It's not about being weak. It's about investing in yourself. You understand what I'm saying? Getting the help yourself. Marlo touched on earlier on, where through COVID, you're with a counsellor now, so you can see certain things that you maybe didn't see in people before, because your mind is a lot clearer. You understand where you are as a person. You have to love yourself to be loved. If you're not loving yourself, you can only pretend for so long, and that doesn't matter whether you're with a person for 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years. It's gonna come out in you at some point or the other. You understand what I'm saying? And your partner, as such, is either going to enable that, or they're going to run for the hills. And most of the time, people are enabling it because one, they don't even understand that they're with a particular person that is carrying those kind of traits, or they're trying to help that person. You understand? And it resolves in them enabling that kind of behavior in the relationship. You understand what I'm saying? So a healthy relationship for me is, compromise, but keeping it real. Taking on board the other person's, do's and don'ts and likes and dislikes, that kind of thing, and growing with each other. You know what I mean? Complementing with each other. They say opposites attract. Yeah, they do. Opposites attract. You can have a totally different personality, an introvert and an extrovert. But like I said, you show compassion. You have empathy. You understand what I'm saying? A narcissistic person doesn't have that. That goes for parents, male or female.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying there about healthy relationships, it's not just partner relationships, like what Basil was saying about, like, you know, business relationships, relationships with your parents, relationships with your school teachers, whoever, you know, anyone can, you know what I mean? And when we're talking about narcissists, I think there's a difference between the spectrum of narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder, which is a diagnosable mental health condition that, like, you know, that we need to be aware of, rather than those who are just taking pictures and, you know, looking for that instant gratification. Because I think, like someone said it earlier, like, you know, that's how society is moving now. And I think for us, it is about us staying grounded in who we are. So we are able to educate our youngers and those around us in terms of just staying true to yourself and standing in your own values. I think now would be a good time. We've got a guest, haven't we? If she's still here, a lady called Amira has written a book called Life After Narcissism. And she's also a public speaker, is that correct? A motivational speaker. So I think that will be quite a nice time to bring her on, and let's hear her thoughts about life after narcissism. Welcome, Amira.
Thank you so much. Just checking, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. So much for welcoming me. I am still here, and I have been listening to the amazing men in the studio and to these amazing women here. And it's just an honor to be in the presence of such greatness. So just thank you. Anyone else I can just jump in, or you have a question?
Amira, would you like to tell us a little bit about your book and when it's due to come out, and what it's about and how it relates to the conversation that we've been having today around narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder? What's the difference?
Okay, well, my book is going to come out next year, January, ending of the month, 31st. So I am 37 years old now, and for the last 37 years, I've been existing and not living. I did not even know the word narcissism existed, but I knew that that's what I was living with, which is my mother at the time made me feel, you could say, crazy, because she would be one way in public, and then when we're home, she would be a completely different way. And I had no one to go to because no one believed me, because she was so convincing in public. So I'm an only child and I'm a female. So good day, bad day, sad day, whatever, when she came home, I got it. And I remembered many times wishing that I would get physically abused, because I know it sounds crazy, but then I would have evidence to show what she's doing, because I could not show the internal scars of the horror that I was going through. It was her word against mine, and I was small, and no one would believe a little girl. Her stature in my country is big. She's very well known. So she provided me with everything in the sight of others. But I did not know how to explain to others, because I didn't know how to explain to myself, that it felt like I'm giving you everything you ever wanted, because the day you decide to say no to me, and the day you decide to not do what I want to do, I can take it all away. So I didn't know that that was a controlling factor. All I knew is that I never wanted to have anyone own anything, and I wanted to own everything myself, because I was expected to be a spoiled child, only child syndrome. And I remembered from a very young age to do, hey, if I just smile hard enough, it might become true that I'm actually happy. If I just pretend long enough that everything is great, it might actually become this way. And if I pretend hard enough, that it might actually come true. So I developed a smile no matter how I felt method. Still carry it to this day. So I realized when someone told me about the word narcissism and the definition, it felt like I started living for the first time because I realized I wasn't crazy. I said, this is my mother. This is everything you're saying. This is her. It's not that I'm crazy. It felt like a new life. It's weird, but I can't explain it any other way. It's like ridiculously happy. Everything was affecting me. Relationships, temporary bulimia, suicidal tendencies, horrible depression, anxieties, bad relationships on my account. I didn't know what I was looking for because I wasn't even looking for myself and my true identity. And I didn't know that narcissism existed. So you all are talking about it as a taboo, and you're talking about it like it's very normal and common. But in my country, and that I'm a Black woman, you don't talk about therapy. So
where are you from, Amira, if you don't mind?
of course, Saint Martin. It's in the Caribbean.
Okay, St. Martin. Okay,
Yeah.
And there is still a lot of stigma attached within our Caribbean families around mental health and narcissism and you know, all of these things. I just want to move on a little bit and bring Kim in because I'm just aware of the time. I've got 20 minutes left, but please just stay on, Amira, and we'd love to hear some more from you shortly. Thank you.
Okay.
Kim, you're on mute. Kim, you're on mute.
Someone muted me from in the studio.
You're good.
Am I on mute now? Who muted me?
You're good to go. You're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
I just wanted to touch on what Amira was saying. Remember, we are suffering as a Black nation. We are suffering from generational abuse. Okay, and this has been passed on. You've got to understand, from slavery days, we've had to turn a blind eye to our fathers having to rape our daughters, our sons having to rape our mothers, and that kind of thing. You understand what I'm saying? Being taken out of the house when you've got the kids, they're being taken out of the house and going through a different plantation. You understand what I'm saying? I saw a picture. I think I've showed it to you guys. I showed a picture. This is 1958. Not that long ago. There was a human zoo with a little black child in this particular zoo. 1958. That's not that long ago. And what we've got to understand is the effects of your actions that cause a reaction in the next generation. Going back to what Amira is saying about her mother and blah, 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 I have the same kind of mother. We've had some, spoken words, me and Amira, of, relationship-wise, that kind of thing. And I can relate to everything that she's saying there because my mother was the same. Well, I say she is the same kind of person that Amira's just explained. You understand what I'm saying? I wasn't allowed to do my exams at school. I got beaten when it came to do my exams at school. So I came out of school with nothing. People who could be in the house and she'd be as nice as pie and, you think she's the nicest person. The minute they've stepped out of the house, I'd get beaten. And it wasn't just a normal beating. I'm talking, the curtain strip, the thing that you get with the curtain white, welts and things on your hand, that kind of thing. It was as a result of my mother, the realization over a matter of years that I was sexually abused, and my mother instigated that. So I've had to live with that. I'm 53 this year. You understand what I'm saying? So it's been a long work in progress, therapy-wise, counseling-wise. This is, I'd say, within the last 5 to 10 years, where I'm even able to speak about things like this. You understand what I'm saying? So I actually speak with people, putting coping mechanisms in for them to deal with trauma. And this is not just young people, this is old people. I say old people, older people. You know what I'm saying? That have never even thought about going to seek therapy, let alone go into therapy, because it's, it's taboo. It's been kept quiet. You know what I'm saying? They're seen as weak. You understand what I'm saying? So you have a lot of adults in our day and age now that are still going through that emotional turmoil, that haven't turned to anybody. And bear in mind, they've had children and they're still going through their children. Your children know when you're happy and when you're sad, and that even when you're trying to hide things from them, as you do, because you don't want to hurt them, you don't want them to, see you in a weak state. Your kids know what's going on, and as they get older, it's like the penny drops. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right, so I just wanted to touch on what Amira said. We have to, as the older generation, then we have to take note of our actions, and what I'm trying to say, you have to love yourself. If you don't feel love, a lot of people seek love in a different kind of way. Invest in yourself, seek the therapy, seek the counselling. If you don't want to go to counselling, find somebody that Milo touched on, that you feel comfortable talking to. It's not going to go anywhere, but you feel comfortable talking to, so that they're non-judgmental. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are supposed to be teaching our younger kids, passing our knowledge down to our younger kids. And if we ain't fixed ourselves, how can we pass our knowledge on to our younger ones?
Exactly. Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
I think generational trauma is something that is subconsciously passed down. I think we've gone around a bit, but this generational trauma that is passed down and inadvertently finds itself resonating with the younger people is sometimes inexplicable. So when you say, Kim, reach out and fix yourself, actually the first port of call is self-acknowledgement, and ensuring that you acknowledge that you have some pain and some emotional trauma that needs to be dealt with. And if that doesn't happen, acknowledgement and then seeking help, it actually just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I see lots of Black boys in school, and this isn't generalization. They sometimes cannot articulate why they are angry. And, I've done some cultural competence training, delivering presentations for teachers where we talk about post-traumatic slavery syndrome. And the audience, the professionals have to be willing and open to hear that. Bringing this back full circle, how does this impact a healthy relationship? Well, the relationship was never healthy to start with. If children don't see models of what it means to have a healthy relationship, then they're seeking these perceptions of what it means to have a relationship, or what it means to interact with the opposite sex. They're getting that from elsewhere. They're getting that from these explicit images, explicit writings. They're getting it from somewhere else. Their perception of what it means to love and be within the constraints of a relationship might for them mean control. Lots of porn ultimately sees the woman as being submissive and the man as the dominant force. And so sometimes some of the men might take that forward, and for them, this is how they're forming their understanding of what it means to be in either a sexual relationship or a relationship per se, one that is supported with that notion of control. I need to be in control. And in the absence of good PSHE lessons at school, this will continue to happen. The PSHE agenda has been squeezed in the curriculum. You don't have your mainstream classroom teacher who is an expert in delivering what a healthy relationship is. And so, again, over the past 2 years, if this isn't on the agenda, and if it isn't high on the agenda in the curriculum, then actually we will always have boys and girls who have a misunderstanding and a misinterpretation of what it means to have a healthy relationship. And that essentially cannot just be in an hour drop-down session at school. This has got to be a rolling program, you know?
Yeah,
Absolutely agree.
thank you, Deborah. Can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah, go on.
There's feedback from the studio.
No, I just wanted to come in on the back of what you were all saying there, just around obviously like the generational trauma, how it's passed down, how do we stop it? And it is one of those things that we need to have these conversations, don't we? And we need to make therapy cool and encourage our young people to seek that therapy for them to really be able to make those changes, so they don't pass it on to their children, because I think this is part of cycle that's happening. And when we're looking at young people now, as we're saying around the theories that they have around what looks good and what a relationship looks like and stuff, then it's quite worrying when you think about what it is they're going to be passing down to their children, their children's children. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had more regular. Marlo, did you with something? We've got 15 minutes left, and I think now will be a good time to start really talking about solutions and rounding up.
Yeah, bear with me. Before we do that, thank you, Naomi. Al Simmons, I'm going to read some of the comments in the chat. Al Simmons says, it's gone. You can show it. It says, if the family construct perpetuates this type of behavior, one person can struggle with trust and building relationships. Wherein they feel comfortable and safe to disclose, right? Which makes me feel like there may be a lack of examples for these young people to, in terms of us modeling healthy relationships. And it's, looking, as you say, generationally, my mum and dad have been married, but it's like they were the exception to the rule amongst my peers when I was at school, because most of my friends came from a single parent family. So I was fortunate and blessed to see a relationship between a man and a woman. And, I'm not married because I don't feel like I found what I saw modeled it between my mum and my dad. So it's a blessing in one way, but in another way, it's kind of set a bar for me that I'm maybe not able to obtain. What I would want to ask you, ladies, is what struggles have you faced in terms of building a healthy relationship, or what struggles have you gone through? And I'll start with yourself, Naomi.
Sure.
Struggles in terms of building a healthy relationship. Well, like I said before, obviously going through a lot of trauma, for me, it was about trust. Like I don't trust, or I didn't used to trust males, because I always felt like they were coming with an alternative motive. I also don't have a very good relationship with my biological father. So I think it kind of stemmed, from the family, and then it's passed down, and then it's led to now my daughter's dad. I had a baby with this guy that I was in a relationship, and the time I was 23, I had to call the police on him, and I had to have him arrested, and he went to jail, and he's still in jail now 18 years later, because of the things that he'd done to me in that relationship. So for me, it's about, I'm a female. I understand that being with a male, I would like my my partner to be an alpha male, and I would like to be a submissive partner. However, I can only be submissive if there are things like trust there, communication, honesty, integrity. If those things are there within a relationship, then I can feel safe to move forward. As soon as any of those things start sliding, I step into my alpha female role, because being a female in business, I quite often have to wear an alpha hat, like just to get my foot through the door.
What does alpha mean to you before I move on to Debbie? Alpha, what is, you said you have to go into alpha. Does that mean you have to be like a man?
Yeah, not necessarily be like a man, but because I work with a lot of men, because I work with a lot of boys who go through youth violence, exploitation, etc. Sometimes I do have to kind of step myself up a little bit more to be even heard. I sit around a lot of round tables where sometimes I can be sitting there for 50 minutes and nothing's been mentioned about the fact that there's a female around the table. Nothing's been mentioned about how boys that may be involved in youth violence may affect like their female partners or their mothers or their sisters. So yeah, it's hard work, but I've got to understand to know that when it comes to business, when I'm in my work environment, I am one person, but then in my relationship with a partner, I'm a different person, because I want to be a submissive wife. I want my partner to be able to take care of me, and you know what I mean, take the lead sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. So, yeah.
Well, when you allow him to take the lead. Thank you, Naomi. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark.
What about Deborah? Deborah, what struggles have you been through? Your younger self.
I like that one, my younger self. I want to be on the same trajectory as my partner. I want us to build together, and I want us to grow together. And sometimes within a relationship, you might find one partner striving and moving ahead, and the other partner seems to be somewhat lackluster in an understanding of how we are supposed to go forward together. We should want for a successful relationship, whether it is financially, emotionally, and all the other things that come with it. We should want to strive for that, and we should want to build each other economically. And unfortunately, my previous struggle meant that I felt that I was moving in a path that, you know, superseded my ex, and it almost felt as if I was leaving him behind, and that wasn't done deliberately, and I don't think that he deliberately stayed behind. It was just because I want more out of life, and I know I'm deserving of more out of life, and everybody who is sat here, we get one chance, and while we're on this earth, we need to strike while the iron's hot. And so for me, it's about being on the same trajectory. And I'm not saying that we got to be out there working the 9 to 5 and bringing in, you know, 80, 90K. It must mean surely that if we are building together, we are building from the root up, and we always remain unified in where we are going, irrespective of how we're going to get there. We're going to get there in our different ways, but we're going to get there together. So for me, the struggle has been to grow together. And I'm not, flawless. I had and still continue to have my flaws. But what I have learned to take forward always now is communication and valuing myself and knowing my self-worth, so that, you know, my daughter can see what it means to equip yourself with self-love before you seek that love from anybody else.
Thank you. Dion says, I think some adults need to fix themselves before they encourage children in therapy. Children model what they see for the most part. Very interesting.
Yeah, correct.
Fine, we've got about 5 minutes left. So I just wanted to kind of get a little bit of thought from the guys, just about their struggles really and successes when it came to relationships. So what would you say to your younger self so you didn't have to make some of these errors?
For Firstly, thank you. I'm going to say thank you to the guys on the other side of the screen that gave us some of their insight. Earlier on, Debbie, you made a comment that Scotty's laughing when he was speaking. You mentioned something about learning to kind of pipe down and so forth. And in my mind, I got this visual of, there used to be a group, English group, Chaz and Dave. And they used to have a song, rabbit, 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 rabbit. And you know, as men, we used to sit down and we used to say, what they do is rabbit. So when Debbie said that, it just brought that image to my mind. That's why I was smiling. In regards,
I just know what battles to choose now.
Yeah, instead of like, yeah, it just brought that visual to my mind when you said it. That's why I was smiling. But in terms of relationships, I think it's important that we have these spaces, and that as men, as women, we model what we're doing now: respect, understanding, listening. And the thing that I would say to myself, to my younger self, the one piece of advice I would give myself is listen to hear, not listen to respond. Because a lot of people listen to things and they're listening to respond instead of listening to hear what's being said. So that's the one thing that I would say to my younger self.
In a relationship,
yes.
So you rather listen to hear rather than to listen to respond.
Yes. So in business, in people listen, but they're not listening to hear. They're listening to respond. I want to hear. I want to make up a response instead of just listening. Something that I practice a lot is sitting with things. So when people talk to you, just sit with what is being said, understand the emotions behind it, and be curious about how does that make me feel. And I wonder how that makes that person who's relaying that message. And then you can listen to respond instead of just listening and just thinking, I got to respond to it in this way. You can hear what's being said.
My daddy always used to say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And nothing happens before his time, you know?
Yeah.
The teacher's not going to talk over the student. But when the student's ready to listen, the teacher's ready to teach. Now, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruben, what would you tell your generation and younger than you about the struggles and the successes in terms of relationship?
Well, first, I agree with what Scotty was just saying, because I have to apply it in business. If I'm dealing with a client that that has a marketing vision, but a lot of people can have an idea, and sometimes they don't know how the process of getting it done or what it would look like at the end. They will just, it's very vivid, just say, oh, I want it to do this and do that. So in that, I have to digest everything I've heard and then piece everything together before I do a presentation back to them. So I use that analogy in regards to business. In a relationship sense, I was too young for a relationship, so that's the advice I would give my younger self. Take time. I think as a young man, you think you need everything now, and you invest emotion into people when you don't even know yourself. Take time. That's the one thing I would actually tell my younger self. There's no real there isn't no real rush to love other people until you actually know yourself. Then you can learn to love yourself. And I think I've grown up in an environment or family where there's been a spotlight on my growth. So as I grew up, finding my own identity was a later stage. You start off as Bishop's son, First Lady Malcolm's son, the Prince. That's what Marley used to call me back in the day. You grow up in that world, 1,000 people calling your name every week.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that wasn't me, the internal me. And when I started to discover who I was already getting love, if that makes sense. You can't love me. Any girls love me at a time. So I didn't even know me before I was engaging with different women. So
that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing self-mastery, self-care, knowing yourself. to thyself be true. And the lockdown has afforded us that opportunity to kind of get to know ourselves, what we like.
Well, I did it a long time before the lockdown, but but the lockdown did give
now
a
you're
lot
forced to.
Oh yeah, no, but I think the lockdown was brilliant in certain ways of learning more about yourself and studying and I know a lot of people suffered in that space because they needed people for validation, but I didn't find I suffered with that problem. I validate myself still. Yeah.
Wow. Well, look, we're coming to the end. Before I pass it over to Basil Links to his final thoughts, this show was brought to you by Legacy Foundation, Legacy Gala Pods, and the Lottery Community Fund. And we just want to thank everybody on the panel, guests, for their time, their contribution. We thank you, Seema. We thank you for your time and your expertise, sharing last minute and coming on the show. It's been a great value to us, and we won't forget it. Deborah Robinson, thank you for your contribution as part of the team. Expert, eloquent, beautiful as usual. Kim, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your research on the narcissist and the narcissism and your sharing. Naomi, as the anchor, the plug, the one that we lean on for your expertise and your experience. We thank you. Scotty, thank you for your... Sorry?
Don't forget
Amira, the guest. Amira as well. I want to say thank you to Amira.
Sorry.
Just Samira.
All
No
right.
problem.
Amira. Okay.
Yes.
Amira, I see you there looking like a big bumblebee in your yellow there. I can't miss you. You're producing the honey. You're producing the honey. So thank you. Yes, Scotty. Always a pleasure, always learning, always inspirational. This platform is for education, inspiration, and information. And as long as we take something away, we've served our purpose. And I know that when you come strong, you come with wisdom above your years, and you come with your voice, your tone, even in your pause. It's very, 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 for me, it's something to look up to. And when I grow up, I want to be just like you. So thank you, brother. Yeah. Basil, I'll pass it over to you, sir.
I think you've said it all. I think you've said it all. So it's been a pleasure. It's good to be back. And I think that this whole lockdown has given everyone an opportunity to reflect and to slow down. And, from my perspective, to my younger self, I would have said, really, if somebody barks like a dog, looks like a dog, they're a dog. Stop trying to think that they're a pussycat. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like a lot of guys, I've probably entered into relationships that I probably should never have gone into. And the signs were always there, or the red flags were always there. So, to adopt something from the lockdown, if I ever get into a situation again, I would definitely take more time, and even in the relationships, in my business relationships, in just my platonic relationships, that's my my word, take more time, really. But yeah, for everyone, I can only emphasize what Marlo said. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. We look forward to the next session. And until then, be safe and take care. See you soon.
God bless everyone.
Bye for now.
Bless you.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.